As I busied myself preparing for my daughter's surprise graduation party, my mind wandered back to the journey our family had taken. Raising three kids on my own after the divorce was tough, but those challenges brought us closer and made moments like this feel even more precious. I hummed a cheerful tune while arranging decorations when suddenly a knock interrupted my thoughts. I briefly considered sending my son Anthony to delay whoever was at the door, but when I opened it, I was taken aback by an unexpected visitor. "Hey there," he greeted, waving casually. His disheveled appearance could easily lead someone to mistake him for a drifter. I froze, momentarily speechless. "Dad?" Anthony's voice snapped me back to reality, and I turned to see my children staring at the man, Mark, with a mixture of shock and disbelief. My daughter, Karen, immediately rejected Anthony's attempt to greet him, insisting that he was no longer part of her family and ushering him back inside. Mark, trying to reclaim his place in our lives, boasted with an arrogance that felt absurd. "I can take care of you all again," he declared, his words hanging in the air like a bad joke. Laughter erupted among us, but it quickly turned into anger as he ranted about not being mocked. "What's all this noise? What's happening?" Another voice chimed in, curious about the commotion outside. Taking a deep breath, I knew it was time to confront my ex-husband decisively. "Let me introduce you to our lives now," I said firmly. "I'm Andrea, a 35-year-old balancing life as a stay-at-home mom with a remote job. Life hasn't turned out exactly as I envisioned, but I've built a successful career in an engineering advertising firm, nurtured valuable relationships, and discovered joy in my life." Our mornings are vibrant, filled with Anthony, my middle schooler, grumbling about not being woken up sooner, and my high school daughter, Karen, who excels in academics but struggles with romance. Mark, my husband, once a mentor at work, now often loses himself in his phone, leaving me to manage our busy household. Through these everyday moments and unexpected challenges, our family navigates life's complexities, drawing strength from one another and finding joy in the journey, no matter how unpredictable it may be. When I first met Mark, he was earnest but quickly revealed a tendency to overlook important details and be unreliable during critical times. I never viewed him romantically, but his persistence eventually led me down the aisle, marking the first time I acknowledged my vulnerability to persuasion. Recently, Mark earned a promotion to manager, requiring more business trips. While I was proud of his success, his vague responses about his return dates and his irritated dismissal of my attempts to comfort him, like offering shoulder massages, were disheartening. At home, he was often preoccupied with his phone, diminishing our family interactions, and he frequently returned late, even outside of his business travel schedule. I hesitated to confront him about his late nights, trying to avoid conflict. Like many times before, he was vague about his travel details, treating his sporadic returns as ordinary, expecting meals on demand. When I gently inquired about when he would be back, his explosive reaction chilled the previously peaceful atmosphere. I barely managed to hold onto a plate, apologizing for my question, only to watch him storm out of the room, leaving behind a mix of anger and guilt. He didn't utter a word as he slammed the door behind him. My attempts to discuss finances were abruptly cut off, leaving an unsettling silence in his wake. Karen noticed the tension and turned to me, while Anthony's grip on his mug betrayed his anxiety. I tried to diffuse the tension, blaming myself for adding to Mark's already overwhelming workload. Karen, ever supportive, reassured me that it wasn't my fault. Her embrace provided a brief moment of solace amidst my swirling emotions. Realizing it was time for school, I urged my children to leave, catching only muffled words from Anthony as he rushed out, leaving a trail of dust behind him. Karen's backward glance was filled with concern, meeting my forced smile, a smile that couldn't hide the lingering unease. After they left, the silence felt as oppressive as a dark, isolated cave, amplifying the echo of Mark's harsh departure. The quiet house, now devoid of its usual morning chaos, seemed to bear the weight of his words, a stark reminder of the growing distance between us. In the face of adversity, I've learned to set aside negative feelings, sometimes even giving myself a little pep talk to stay motivated. With Mark no longer contributing financially, it's up to me to ensure our children have everything they need. Drawing from my past experience, I embarked on a career as a graphic designer. While the income can be unpredictable, my determination to provide for my family drives me forward. I remind myself to stand strong as I finish up the laundry, savoring the beauty of a day marked by a single cloud in the sky, humming tunes from my youth to keep my spirits high. Mark's frequent business trips have become the new normal, with his late-night returns increasingly rare. When I cautiously ask about his late nights, his dismissive responses leave no room for discussion. Our communication has dwindled to brief, cold exchanges, a stark contrast to the partner I once knew. I was momentarily stunned by his indifference as he walked away, but I quickly regained my composure. My primary concern shifted to our financial stability, accepting the reality that I could no longer rely on Mark for support. I had organized our finances into 4 separate accounts, one for my income as a graphic designer and daily expenses, another for the mortgage payments to Trust Bank, a third reserved for absolute emergencies, and the last for savings. While the first account remained stable, the looming burden of long-term mortgage payments filled me with dread. I chose not to dwell on it, focusing instead on the immediate tasks at hand. However, when I checked the rarely accessed emergency account, I was confronted with an unexpected and unfamiliar withdrawal. The discovery unsettled me, sparking concerns of potential fraud, especially since my children were unaware of these accounts. Although the idea of a scam crossed my mind, the selective nature of the withdrawals didn't quite fit this theory. A deeper worry settled in, giving rise to a suspicion that was hard to shake. As I grappled with this new financial mystery, I also had to confront the personal toll these stresses were taking on me. My failing eyesight, worsened by presbyopia, reminded me of the fine lines that mark the passage of time, along with the lasting signs of too many nights spent dozing off at my desk. In this moment of reflection, I resolved to stop being so hard on myself. Instead, I chose to face reality head-on, focusing on resolving the financial anomaly and preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead, with or without Mark's support. My determination to protect and provide for my family remained unwavering despite the uncertainties. It felt like a distant dream to expect Mark to come home while the daylight still graced the sky, almost as unlikely as anticipating a sudden hailstorm tomorrow. As I watched the chicken sizzling on the grill, I braced myself for the inevitable critique from Mark about the meal's lack of excitement. Cooking had once offered brief respite from my daily worries, but now those moments were overshadowed by an increasing sense of dread. I had been mulling over how to confront Mark about the mysterious withdrawal from our emergency fund, knowing the kids would usually be sequestered in their rooms until dinner. I thought tonight might finally be the time to broach the subject, but finding the right words felt daunting. Just as I was wrestling with my thoughts, Mark excused himself to the bathroom, leaving me torn between relief at avoiding a difficult discussion and frustration at the missed opportunity. His phone buzzed on the table, displaying a notification from a name I didn't recognize. The temptation to investigate was overwhelming, especially knowing Mark would be occupied for a while. With my heart racing, I edged closer to the table and caught a fleeting glimpse of the message, but just then, footsteps interrupted me. I hastily returned the phone to its spot as my son Anthony asked about dinner. Almost ready, I reassured him, my mind racing with the realization that tonight's dinner complaints might extend beyond the culinary. Later, with the house enveloped in silence and my family asleep, I couldn't shake the urge to delve deeper into the mystery of that message. Driven by a mix of duty and apprehension, I tiptoed out of my room, motivated by the need to uncover the truth. Mark's steady snoring confirmed he was deep in slumber, thanks in part to the beer I'd encouraged him to have with dinner. Navigating the dimly lit hallway, I approached Mark's room, the air thick with the scent of alcohol. I pressed on, determined not to let the unpleasant smell deter me. Reaching his bedside, I eyed the phone, its cable a lifeline from the outlet. I knew unplugging it would awaken the screen, potentially revealing more than I was prepared for, yet my need for answers guided my trembling hands. In the quiet of the night, with my heart heavy and hands shaking, I carefully disconnected Mark's phone from its charger. Pressing it to my chest, I made sure it remained dark as I tiptoed back to my sanctuary, my room. Tears I hadn't realized were threatening spilled over, and I gently wiped them away with my pajama sleeve. Turning on the phone, a flood of emotions washed over me as I searched for the messages that had haunted my thoughts. The conversation with Bruce was worse than I had feared. Plans for future trips. Casual mentions of using my savings, a betrayal that cut deep. Reading their exchange, a chilling calm settled over me. Their words, filled with plans and stolen moments captured in photographs, made my previous worries seem almost naive. I returned Mark's phone to its charging cable beside him, moving silently and deliberately. The next morning, as I prepared breakfast, an unusual smoothness washed over me. Mark appeared disheveled, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. My greeting was icy, a sharp contrast to the warmth of the rising sun. When he casually asked about breakfast, I seized the moment to confront him about his actions and the existence of Bruce. The confrontation escalated quickly, morphing from disbelief to anger. When I declared my intention to divorce him, he responded with a plate thrown in fury, shattering behind me. Mark's behavior marked the end of any semblance of civility. My children were caught in the crossfire, witnessing the aftermath of his rage. Karen's quick thinking to record the confrontation and Anthony's silent readiness with a baseball bat underscored the seriousness of the situation. Despite the tension, I urged caution, fearing for their safety. The overwhelming events of the day took a toll on me professionally, leading me to request an extension for the first time. When Mark returned home, he nonchalantly placed the divorce papers on the table, his actions final and devoid of any warmth that once existed between us. My children's support for the divorce, evident in their readiness to protect and stand by me, offered a small comfort in the face of such profound betrayal and upheaval. This painful chapter, marked by confrontation and the stark reality of divorce, underscored our family's resilience and unity. Despite the fear and uncertainty, the strength to move forward came from the support we found in each other, ready to face a new beginning, however daunting it might seem. The decision to divorce felt like stepping into uncharted waters. I was apprehensive and unsure if I could shoulder the financial responsibilities alone. However, after opening up to Karen and Anthony about my concerns, we found unity in our resolve. Karen offered to contribute her part-time job earnings, while Anthony volunteered to take on more household duties. Accepting their help wasn't easy, but it became our path forward together. 2 weeks after our heartfelt family discussion, the absence of Mark brought a surprising sense of relief. My worries lingered, yet the atmosphere at home became lighter and more bearable. With legal advice, we finalized the divorce, stepping into a new chapter that, despite its challenges, felt refreshingly hopeful. 2 years later, the journey hadn't been easy. Karen balanced her studies with work, a sacrifice that kept us afloat despite my protests. When her exam results didn't meet our expectations, I felt the weight of guilt heavy on my shoulders. Yet she stood firm, owning her decisions with a maturity beyond her years. Meanwhile, Anthony's adeptness in managing household chores significantly lightened the load, although it wasn't without its moments of familial tension, particularly over laundry duties. Reflecting on these 2 years, it's clear that life after divorce tested us in ways we hadn't anticipated. Yet together, we navigated through the toughest times, preparing a special dinner to celebrate Karen's acceptance into medical school. I'm filled with pride and gratitude. This celebration signifies more than just Karen's academic achievement. It's a tribute to our collective resilience and the support we offer one another. As I set up for our small party, the unexpected arrival of Mark disrupts the preparations. His disheveled appearance and mismatched clothes catch me off guard. My children's reaction, a mix of rejection and astonishment, underscores the distance and changes that have shaped our lives. Mark's attempt to reinsert himself into our lives is met with disbelief and laughter from us, highlighting the absurdity of his expectations. His presence serves as a stark reminder of the journey we've embarked on since our separation. Yet, as we stand together, facing whatever challenges come our way, it's clear that our strength as a family lies not in the absence of obstacles, but in our unwavering support for one another. Gathering my composure, I stood tall and introduced Frank, my husband, to the unexpected visitor. Although I had mentioned Mark's name to Frank before, the introduction led to a tense moment as everyone gauged each other's reactions. Frank wore a courteous smile, revealing that he was the president of a key client company where Mark was employed. Their acquaintance seemed familiar to Frank, but Mark feigned ignorance, creating an awkward situation following Frank's pointed comments about Mark's recent professional missteps. Mark's denial and claims of infidelity were met with my calm yet firm correction. I clarified that our divorce was legally binding, debunking his baseless accusations. When Mark demanded alimony, I turned the tables by presenting evidence of his financial betrayal. The misappropriation of funds from an account designated for emergencies, which contained a substantial inheritance from my late parents. Confronted with undeniable proof of his actions, including the potential charge of forgery for illicitly withdrawing money without my consent, Mark found himself cornered into a settlement. He reluctantly agreed to pay back the $50,000 he wrongfully took and commit to alimony payments. This resolution was both relieving and bittersweet as I reflected on these developments over coffee. I pondered the future of the alimony payments, realizing how profoundly the incident had affected Mark's life. His financial misconduct had forced him to juggle multiple low-paying jobs just to meet his obligations. Frank's decision to sever ties with Mark's employer over ethical concerns was a stance I initially considered too severe. However, Frank assured me it was justified, emphasizing the importance of integrity in both business and personal dealings. This chapter, marked by a blend of vindication and contemplation, highlighted the resilience required to navigate life's unexpected turns. It served as a reminder of the strength found in standing up for oneself, the complexities of human relationships, and the sometimes harsh realities of consequences and redemption. Watching Frank's stern reaction to Mark's professional downfall left me with mixed feelings. Mark's life had taken a steep dive after losing a major client and subsequently his job. Now, struggling to stay afloat financially, he looked worn, his days of prosperity becoming a distant memory. Mark's sarcastic inquiry about Bruce only added to the grim picture, revealing that she had departed after accumulating the hefty debt for which Mark, as the guarantor, was left to bear alongside the alimony payments to me. Despite everything, I found myself feeling a pang of sympathy for Mark, even as he inquired about our children. Karen's success in medical school and the adversities she faced, alongside Anthony's newfound determination to specialize in legal matters, particularly infidelity, painted a picture of resilience and growth born from hardship. Mark's remark about my marriage to Frank, suggesting a begrudging gratitude, brought back memories tinged with both fondness and regret. His old habit of touching his ear when embarrassed reminded me of simpler times before life's complexities unfolded. The encounter ended with a polite gesture as Mark offered to pay his share, but I handled the bill swiftly, leaving no room for debate. As we parted ways, thoughts of my upcoming doctor's appointment and the news of expecting Frank's child filled me with anticipation. Karen and Anthony's reactions to the pregnancy news, a blend of shock, concern, and eventual support, highlighted the ever-present bond and care within our family. Frank's suggestion to take a break from freelancing during the pregnancy was met with my desire to continue working, leading to a compromise reached through a mix of determination and negotiation. Passing a joyful family on my way to the doctor, I reflected on my own happiness. A feeling of contentment enveloped me as I embraced the next chapter of our lives. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it was these moments of love, resilience, and new beginnings that painted a picture of hope and fulfillment.